Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today I want to talk to you about why fear is paralyzing every good thing in your life. Now, hundreds or thousands of years ago, when our ancestors were in Africa, they were utilizing fear as a feedback loop, as a mechanism to learn to avoid death. And what I mean by that is when a tiger, a saber-toothed tiger, or a lion is chasing you, your fear mechanism and the hormones that follow that fear mechanism absolutely need to kick in order for you to survive. So fear has a very important role in our lives, and it keeps us safe, it keeps us sound, it keeps us in a stable place. We've all heard the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. And more often than not, fear is in fact that. It is false evidence appearing real. So I have two stories for you today that I want to share that illustrate the power of fear when there is nothing to be afraid of. So there are two stories. And honestly, I don't know how true these are, so take them with a grain of salt, but the stories illustrate my point very powerfully. The first story is about a guy who worked at a restaurant, and he was closing the restaurant, and he's the last one there. So he goes into the fridge to put something away, something like that, and the door closes and locks behind him. Now, in his mind, he thinks, shit, I just locked myself in the freezer. He thought he was in the freezer, or he thought it was going to turn into a freezer, something like that. And they found him in the morning dead. They checked the temperature and it was mildly cool, like literally not even fridge temperature. That's the first story. The second story is about a guy who they told him that they were going to draw blood from him for as long as it took him to pass out, and then they would stop. And this was, I guess, some prisoner or something, some crazy experiment. So they put him in a room, and they did this overnight. And they hooked him up, and he heard this sort of like dripping overnight. And it kept going and going and going. Turns out the setup, or the experiment, was set up wrong, and they were not drawing his blood at all. The whole time he thought his blood was being drawn, and they found him in the morning dead also. Now, these two stories are obviously a bit extreme, but they illustrate a point. And that point is that fear does create a false sense of reality. So fear puts you into your fight or flight response. Fear puts you into this fight or flight response, but oftentimes we also freeze during this response. So we just lock up and we don't do anything. Fight being say yes to a situation, flight being no, I'm out. But oftentimes we can actually lock up. So what science has taught us and what we've found is that fear is actually harmful to the physical, emotional, mental body. It actually stiffens and hardens our arteries. There's animals in nature, such as different rabbits and different animals, that when they are hunted by their prey, they will run for their life. And even though they are not attacked, you can look this up, even though they are not attacked, they will, run and hide, and then they'll get into their hiding place, and their heart will be racing so fast that they'll literally have a heart attack and die. So fear is paralyzing and crippling, and it literally has the power to kill us. Most people talk about the placebo effect, which is the positive results of thinking positively. What most people don't talk about or aren't aware of is the nocebo effect, N-O-C-E-B-O, which is the effect of thinking negatively and believing negatively and having those repercussions come back into your life.